Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're getting into the physics of the road, really. What it actually means to be a defensive driver in this, well, this incredibly diverse ecosystem of vehicles.
It really is an ecosystem, isn't it?
It is. I mean, think about your daily commute. You could have a massive loaded semi-truck on one side
Mm-hmm.
and then a nimble little electric scooter on the other.
Right. And they behave completely differently.
Exactly. And if you assume everyone handles, turns, and stops the same way you do, you're operating under a really dangerous delusion.
A very dangerous one.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission today is to give you a shortcut to what we're calling kinetic awareness.
I like that term.
It's the ability to instantly recognize the potential energy and momentum of all the vehicles around you relative to your own. By understanding their limitations, you become a much safer driver.
And we've synthesized a ton of source material that really zeroes in on this, on how differences in size, weight, and structure affect handling, and this is the critical part, stopping distance.
For pretty much every road user out there.
For almost all of them, yeah. We're not just listing dangers, we're trying to explain the physics behind them.
So we'll be answering why some vehicles, despite great safety ratings, still pose these inherent dangers. We'll talk about how size impacts severity, this impact differential, and we'll finish with a really tangible tip on mastering the spatial awareness of your own car.
Which is something a lot of drivers could probably use.
Definitely. So let's start at the low end of the weight spectrum, the most vulnerable people on the road.
Right.
I mean, if we're talking defensive driving, we have to start with the vehicles that have zero protective structure, bicycles and motorcycles.
Absolutely. The vulnerability of bicycles is, well, it's obvious. There are no barriers, so even a minor incident can cause severe injury.
But the sources point to something else, too.
They do. The less intuitive danger is visibility, especially at intersections or, in low light. A car is designed to be seen. A bike requires you, the driver, to be actively consciously scanning for it.
And that vulnerability just ramps up with motorcycles.
Dramatically. Beyond the lack of protection, the source material flags the issue of stability. I mean, they're so susceptible to hazards, a car would just roll right over.
Like what?
Potholes, gravel, even just a patch of wet leaves or a metal plate on the road, their whole geometry is working against them in bad conditions.
And then there's the perception issue.
Oh, absolutely. This is where it gets really interesting with the smallest and newest road users, electric scooters and mopeds.
Okay.
The core risk there isn't just their lack of protection. It's something the data calls closing speed calculation failure.
What does that mean exactly?
It means that because these scooters are often going way slower than the 45 or 55 mile per hour speed limit,
Right.
other drivers misjudge the gap. They close in way too fast, which leads to a much higher risk of rear-end collisions. The speed mismatch is often the real danger.
That's a fantastic point, is the unexpected variance. Okay, so now let's flip that script completely. Let's talk about the giants of the road. Vehicles defined by mass and momentum.
Yeah, the heavyweights. For trucks, whether it's a semi or a delivery truck, the danger isn't just their size, it's pure physics.
Okay.
When you have a vehicle that can weigh 80,000 pounds, its kinetic energy, the energy of its motion, is just astronomical.
And that means?
It means they need dramatically longer stopping distances.
And that's under ideal conditions, right?
Mm.
I remember one source mentioning something called braking fade.
That's right. Truck brakes generate so much heat. If they're used repeatedly, like going down a long hill, they can start to fade, extending that stopping distance even further.
Which is why you never, ever cut off a truck.
Never. And then there are their blind spots, their geometric nightmares. They call it the no zone.
And where is that exactly?
It's not just one spot. These areas are on all four sides, especially right alongside the cab and directly behind the trailer. The driver simply cannot see a car there.
And the right turn.
Yeah.
That's the big one.
That's their most dangerous maneuver. They need a huge amount of space to swing wide, and if you try to sneak up their inside, you are gambling with thousands of pounds of momentum.
It's a losing bet.
Every time. Now, buses share those huge blind spots, but they add a different risk.
The stops.
The unpredictability of frequent required stops. That increases the chance of rear-end collisions for anyone following too closely. And of course, you always have to be aware of passengers getting on or off.
Right. And we can't forget the more specialized vehicles, like agricultural vehicles.
The slow movers. Their risk comes from two things that just clash with normal traffic flow. Their extremely slow speed and their incredible width.
They often take up more than one lane.
Exactly. They create these unexpected obstacles, and their loads can create huge visibility problems, especially around dusk.
Okay. That brings us to the mid-range. Your everyday passenger vehicles, cars, SUVs, minivans, we assume they're predictable, but the danger is a bit more insidious.
It is. It lies in the blind spot geometry. Newer, bigger SUVs and minivans have much thicker pillars and smaller windows than older cars.
So those blind spots are big enough to hide.
An entire motorcycle, or even a small car.
And then you have RVs.
With RVs, the core hazard is often just driver inexperience.
Right. These are huge vehicles that require a lot of space to turn and stop, but they're often driven by people who only get behind the wheel a few times a year.
It's a bad combination.
So we've covered risk from scale, from inexperience. But the biggest challenge can be the sudden, unexpected factor, which brings us right to emergency vehicles.
Yeah, their danger comes from the necessity of high speeds and unexpected maneuvers. But what's fascinating here is that the source material shows the mere presence of lights and sirens causes a massive spike in driver distraction.
So people are crashing into each other because they're all looking at the ambulance.
Exactly. It causes secondary, unrelated accidents.
That's incredible. So this brings up a really key question then. How do we even define what the most dangerous vehicle is?
What's fascinating here is that the definition is totally subjective. It really depends on how you measure the risk.
You mean risk to the occupant versus risk to everyone else?
Precisely. Risk from vulnerability, or risk from what we call impact severity. You see that conflict immediately in the data.
So let's start with vulnerability.
Okay, so motorcycles are statistically the most dangerous vehicle for the rider, hands down. They have the highest fatality rate per mile traveled.
Because there's just nothing between the rider and the impact?
Zero protection. Conversely, the vehicles most dangerous to everyone else are the large trucks. Their danger is all about that impact differential you mentioned earlier.
Let's define that a bit more clearly.
Sure. Impact differential is just physics in action. When an 80,000-pound truck hits a 4,000-pound car, the momentum transfer is overwhelmingly into the smaller vehicle.
So it doesn't matter how safe your car is.
Not really. The car's safety cage helps, but that differential means the truck is going to inflict severe, often catastrophic damage.
And we see a version of that every day with SUVs and pickup trucks, don't we? Their popularity has really changed collision outcomes.
It really has. Their danger is twofold. First is design. A higher center of gravity makes them much more prone to rollovers in a sharp, evasive turn.
More so than a sedan.
Much more. And second, their weight and aggressive front-end design mean they cause more damage to smaller cars. They act like bullies in a low-speed crash.
And what about ATVs? I know they're mostly off-road, but they do end up on public roads sometimes.
We have to mention ATVs. They are designed for off-road with a high center of gravity, and they completely lack basic safety features like seat belts or airbags. They are fundamentally unstable and unprotected on pavement.
Okay, so let's flip to the other end of the spectrum, the safest vehicles. The sources say it's a combination of crash test ratings and advanced tech.
Right, what we call ADAS advanced driver assistance systems.
But for listeners who might not be familiar, what organizations are we talking about when we say top ratings?
Primarily two. There's NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, and the IIHS, which is the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. The IIHS runs really rigorous tests to measure injury risk.
And when we talk about ADAS, what are the key functions we're really talking about?
Well, ADAS is all about predictive and corrective technology. A key one is adaptive cruise control. It doesn't just hold your speed, it actively monitors the vehicle in front of you.
And adjust your speed to keep a safe distance.
Exactly, a safe stopping distance.
Yeah.
It's about technology reinforcing good structure. You see this in models like the Volvo XC90, which is famous for its collision avoidance systems.
Hey, the Subaru Ascent with its eyesight technology.
Right, which provides pre-collision braking. The Toyota Highlander has Toyota Safety Sense, which includes pedestrian detection. It uses radar and cameras to see what a driver might miss.
And the Honda CR-V has a similar system.
The Honda Sensing Suite, yeah. It has a collision mitigation braking system that will actively apply the brakes if it thinks a crash is imminent.
But wait a minute. If we're relying so heavily on this tech for safety, isn't there a risk of over-reliance? You know, the driver just checks out and lets the machine do the work.
That is an excellent question. And the source material is very clear on this. While these systems do drastically reduce accident rates, they are assists. They're not replacements for an attentive driver.
So they don't make you invincible?
Not at all. I mean, look at the Tesla Model 3. It gets top safety ratings and has autopilot features like automatic emergency braking, but it's still only as safe as the driver behind the wheel. The human element is, and always will be, the most critical variable.
Here's where it gets really interesting. We're moving from external risk to your own internal mastery. We've established the road is full of these highly variable vehicles.
Right.
So to navigate that safely, you have to first master the physical envelope of your own car.
Knowing the width and length of your vehicle is just crucial. For lane centering, parking, and for safely getting around all the different traffic we just described, it's all about improving your spatial awareness.
And one of the simplest ways to do that, which the sources emphasize, is with properly adjusted side mirrors. But what does properly adjusted actually mean?
It means you adjust them so you can barely see the side of your own car. You want to maximize the view of the lanes beside you. Then you use the edge of the mirror itself as a reference point.
To line up with the lane markings.
Exactly. You visually align that edge with the lane marking or a curb. Over time, your brain just maps that visual cue to where your tires actually are.
And then there's just old-fashioned spatial awareness training.
Yeah, you have to visualize your car's dimensions, mentally estimate the clearance you need. When you're going through a narrow space, you should be able to, in your mind, trace the path of your front bumper and your tires.
That's what separates an average driver from a great one.
It really is. And you should use other visual cues too. Look far down the road, use the lane markings to stay centered. Just consistently drive in the center of your lane to build that reliable reference point.
And thankfully, we have technology to help with this now.
We do. Parking sensors and cameras aren't luxuries anymore. They are essential tools for spatial awareness, giving you audible beeps and visual lines to help you judge distance, especially in tight spots.
What is the end?
In the end, the source material reinforces that there is no substitute for practice. That instinct for your car's boundaries comes from regular driving and from deliberately practicing challenging parking maneuvers.
So, to summarize the core takeaway here, defensive driving demands an awareness not just of your own actions, but of the specific kinetic limits and geometric risks of every other vehicle on the road.
You have to calculate both things, the high vulnerability of that person on the motorcycle and the long stopping distance, the sheer momentum of a fully loaded semi.
If we connect this to the bigger picture,
the safest driver is the one who practices true kinetic awareness, who understands vulnerability, weight differential, and technology, both their own and what's in the vehicles around them. If you ignore the unique physics of a bus or a cyclist, you're putting everyone at a higher risk.
So as you head out on the road next time, here is a final provocative thought for you to consider. This is inspired by that dramatic data we saw on weight disparity.
Okay.
Given the enormous range in crash protection and mass between, say, a small compact car and a heavy SUV, how might future road design, not just vehicle tech, but the roads themselves, have to fundamentally change to manage the physics of these different masses sharing the same space?
That's a huge question. Should lane barriers be structurally different? Should we have minimum weights on certain roads?
Something to chew on.
Yeah.
We encourage you to apply this knowledge immediately and start treating the road like the complex, variable environment it truly is.
Drive safe.
Please like, subscribe, and get notified.